Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to another edition of our Dailyish Devotionals. I am Pastor Brian, and I would be lying if I told you that this was a normal day. It's the first devotional that I've done without the boys present in the house somewhere doing something, making noise or anything. It's quiet. It's the first day of school. It was kind of an anxious day, especially with everything that's going on and going back to school, but it's a good day. It's nice to get a little sense of normalcy back, and I just continue to hope and pray that it really goes well. So if you have some extra time today, pray for the kids, pray for the teachers, pray for the administrators, bus drivers, staff, custodians, everybody that makes that school go, even the parents that are dropping kids off, just for everything to go as smooth as possible. But I think the person taking it the hardest, not even a person, the dog, poor Storm, he came in today to have me pet him. He is so starved for attention. Him and I have a hate-hate relationship. Not really, but I am not his favorite person. His favorite person is now in school. So he is struggling today. But I'm sure he'll get over it. I like the watching football there while you're supposed to be going to church. All right, let's get to the main part of my devotional today. The title of the chapter in God Came Near, Max Lucado's book, is Hope. It's one of those God wink things where this is the title of the chapter today as we start that first day of school and begin another year there. The hope that everything goes as smooth as possible. Just kind of interesting how God makes those little things work once in a while, where the chapter lines up with the day just perfectly. Max starts the chapter out with the story of the two men walking on the road to Emmaus, the disciples discussing all that had happened with Christ's crucifixion, and they're walking and they're talking, and then Jesus comes in their midst and asks them what they're talking about, and they basically say, "Where have you been? Haven't you been on Facebook or Twitter, TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and heard the news?" And Jesus says, "No." They recount to him all that had happened, and they end with, "But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel." But we had hoped. How often have you heard a phrase like that? We were hoping the doctor would release him. We were hoping the surgery would get all of the tumor. I had hoped to pass the exam. I thought the job was in the bag. What we wanted didn't turn out. What came, we didn't want. The result, shattered hope. The foundation of our world in shambles. We too trudge up the road to Emmaus, dragging our sandals in the dust, wondering what we did to deserve such a plight. What kind of a God would let me down like this? You see, the problem with our two heavy-hearted friends here on the road to Emmaus was not their lack of faith, but a lack of vision. They, and most disciples, had thoughts of what a Messiah was supposed to be like, and Jesus said, "No, not the way it's going to be." And still, it was hard for them when it finally happened. It took them a while to figure that out. Their hope, their dreams did not line up with Jesus' hopes and dreams, what was best for them and the world. You have to wonder, Max, if some of God's most merciful acts are not answers to prayer. And I could list to you a few times. Big decisions were happening in life, and I thought it needed to go one way, and it didn't at the time, and I thought, why not, God? This is the way best. And now looking back after a while, thinking, that was the right decision. That would not have been the best situation. So sometimes even unanswered prayers are blessings. But Max goes on to say, we're not so much different than burdened travelers, those disciples, are we? We roll in the mud of self-pity in the very shadow of the cross. We piously ask for his will and then have the audacity to pout if everything doesn't go our way. If we would just remember the heavenly body that awaits us, we'd stop complaining that he hasn't healed this earthly one. Our problem is not so much that God doesn't give us what we hope for. It is that we don't know the right thing to hope for. I'm going to repeat that. Our problem is not so much that God doesn't give us what we hope for, as it is that we don't know the right thing to hope for. Hope is not what you expect. It is what you would never dream. Hope is not a granted wish or a favor performed. It is far greater than that. It is a zany, unpredictable dependence on a God who loves to surprise us out of our socks and then be there in the flesh to see our reaction. I was reading in My Utmost for His Highest. It's an Oswald Chambers collections of sayings and commentary and verses. Good devotional. And today his devotion was about our, basically, like Max's, our audacity to ask God for things, yet not put any real time or effort into a relationship with God. One of his examples was praying and asking for forgiveness, yet we are withholding forgiveness from others. He had a few other examples of there where we need some generosity and some help, and would like some money, but we are not very generous with our money and helping others. Mr. Chambers' point is that we have the audacity to ask for a lot of things we're not willing to do for ourselves. God, do this for me, but if I'm asked to do that for somebody else, no chance. Sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? It's kind of what Max is getting at here with our hope. We hope for things to happen for us that we think we need. Hoping for healing and hoping for health. And a lot of things we hope for are good, right things to hope for. And there are obviously all kinds of examples of where those don't come to fruition for whatever reason. Through no fault of our own, through no lack of faith, just for whatever reason it's not in the grand plan. But sometimes we hope for things that are not good for us. Like I talked about, there were some early parts of the church. One example I'll give you is when we were first started. I don't know how long I'd been here, 1, 2, 3 years, and we had talked about possibly partnering with the Walnut Peace UCC Church, and we had begun some pretty serious discussions. I'd even preached a Sunday over there, and I thought this would be great. Share the churches, and a good way to keep both churches open and hopefully do some good things. And it turned out it wasn't what was in the plans for God. And looking back, that probably was a good thing, because that's a long drive over there. It's 2 different school districts. Just don't think it would have worked as well as I thought it was. And luckily, better wisdom prevailed there. But just some other times where I've thought this is the way things need to go, or this is what I need to do, or this is what needs to happen, and it didn't. And at the time, disappointed, but yet looking back thinking, no, that was the right thing. Of course, that's hard to do in the middle of it when your hope is extinguished or when your hope has been dashed. Only the perspective of time someone can give us that. And I know Max doesn't talk about hoping for the good things like healing of a loved one, hoping for success at a job or anything of that nature, and where it doesn't come through the healing or the success, and wondering, well, why not? The big thing to remember that hope isn't dependent on happens to you. Our hope is dependent on God and Jesus and the work done there. Don't get stuck in, I need to be this, that, or the other to be able to experience my blessings. Sometimes crappy stuff happens for no reason. We live in a fallen world. But our hope is that there is a God that walks there with us through all the muck and the mire, and will be there in the end to welcome us with open arms. There is where our hope should lie, not on the granting of wishes and fantasies and here on earth all the time. Let our hope be bigger than just those little things. Hope in that resurrected Christ that walked with those disciples. Hope that in the end, all pain, all suffering is gone, and we spend eternity with Jesus and our loved ones. That's where our true hope lies. Amen.